In the same way that Johns Hopkins is utilizing psychedelics to rewire dis-ease into wellness, I believe that we can rewire scarcity into abundance. Welcome to another daily dose. I'm excited to dive in here and to paint a picture of possibility in your mind and to share why in 2026, with so much chaos in our world, why I am still so gosh darn hopeful for the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. We've just scratched the surface with psychedelics entering the mainstream. We've only have 3 out of the 50 states have legalized psilocybin therapy. So again, we're going to dive in here and I'm going to share with you my hopeful heart and I'm going to make the case for why this third wave. We did a whole episode about the backstory. The first wave was the indigenous, maybe the ancient Greeks. Second wave was the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we're in the third wave where these powerful medicines, state-changing molecules, powerful allies, plant allies, visionary vitamins, all of it are re-entering the mainstream in divine, perfect timing. Again, we've got so much to learn from the 50s and 60s. When we watch How to Change Your Mind and we do the research about what happened, Michael Pollan did a wonderful job showing, really myth busting, all the BS Inc., the lies around psychedelics, and they were perpetrated on both sides. So the party got out of hand. Again, Richard Nixon shut down the party with the Controlled Substances Act, but there was an incredible breadth of research from the 50s and 60s before that happened, where LSD was the miracle cure for addiction and depression, and psilocybin was this miracle magical mushroom and this came in so fast into our collective, we didn't know what this was. And again, the elders didn't understand this rite of passage that the young people were engaging in. And the young people didn't even know what the hell they were doing. This was all new. There was no case precedent. There was no playbook to work from. And that's what gives me a lot of hope now. We're here in 2026 where we can look back and say, hey, whoa, yeah, that things did go off the rails. And they went off the rails for these reasons. Right now, these medicines have been, there's stewardship that's happening in the elders in our collective. And so many of the elders in our during these times have had experiences. So this isn't a completely foreign thing out of the middle of nowhere, that a foreign phenomenon. This is something that again, many have had experiences with. And so there's going to be a level of awareness around the potential here. And then the real talk about where we are. We're in a mental health crisis, suicide epidemic, addiction soaring, anxiety, depression, trauma, unprocessed trauma, all of it. There's so much polarization in our culture. I believe that all the madness that we see in our world is a projection of unhealed trauma. So you have all of this tension that we all feel in the day-to-day, and that these, there's got to be another way. There's got to be a better way, and there is. And I believe that this will continue to mushroom in our collective, and the doors will keep opening. And the states, there's legislations in 14 states right now where they are working to implement this. I just saw New Jersey was funded, I think, $6 million for a pilot program on psilocybin, where they're going to be doing some research on that. So that's another positive signal. And there's other data points that are really, really important here in me making my claim here is that the tie to the flow state. I think that Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheel, their book, Stealing Fire, I think one of the most important books ever written in the psychedelic renaissance, or about psychedelics, period. And they basically took these altered states from the hippies, and have framed it around the incredible potential for the flow state and for peak performance. So again, hey, we've seen from the past how this could go awry when people are utilizing psychedelics and they're not integrating the experience, or they're not in a state of action. And I'm not here to judge anybody that is going to have experiences, and people are going to do what they're going to do. But the fact that we have a framework for and an understanding in our collective around the flow state, around peak performance, the flow science that Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheal share is very compelling. I mean, we're talking about productivity up 500%. Again, that McKinsey study that's often cited, where executives in flow reported being 500% more productive while in the flow state. And we're learning, twice as fast. There was these military studies that show that we could learn and flow up to twice as fast. And, that while we're in the flow state, we have elevated neuroplasticity. And what is neuroplasticity? It's learning. It's our brain and our nervous system's ability to change to internal and external conditions. And we also have these surges of creativity while we're in the flow state. And Dr. Fadiman's study that we've talked about demonstrates that. He had 48 engineers in the Bay Area that were working in a myriad of different fields, and they were all senior level and had all been struggling with a creative challenge for 6 months. 40 out of 48 had a satisfactory solution with 100 micrograms of LSD, and I believe the comparable 100 milligrams, or I think it was 200 milligrams of mescaline. I'm not quite sure, but it was a comparable amount. And this was more in the mini dose range. But this demonstrated the incredible creative potential of mini dosing, and I'm seeing it in microdosing. That's why microdosing is all the buzz in Silicon Valley, and it has been for the last decade. That it's thought that a third of our C-level Silicon Valley executives are microdosing to boost cognition and creativity, and the coders in the valley are utilizing that so they can get fully, deeply immersed in the flow state and dial into their work and just crush it. So these are different programs. There's a different framework to work from that we didn't have in the 60s. This was all like, whoa, what is this? Let's, I think about the mental imagery of Woodstock and people, doing LSD and mushrooms, and they're out and they're dancing, and there's rock and roll, and there's rebellion, and there's, hey, let's create a counterculture. We don't need the government. This is they don't know what the hell they're doing. And that was very off-putting, very threatening for the establishment. Again, the party got shut down. So there's the elders that are mapping this path ahead. They're creating a really strong framework for all of us to operate within. And yeah, there probably is still some people that think that we need a counterculture and that are going to concerts and they're doing this. Again, people are going to do what they're going to do. No judgment. But the fact that we have this avenue, that we have, again, this stronger cultural container where we understand the potential, is what I think will be a major difference maker here in the outcome that will be fruitful, and that this will, again, continue to mushroom in our collective, and this is going to meet our collective mental health crisis head on, and this is going to potentially be a way to harmonize our energies, this polarization and all of the pain that we're feeling in our collective right now. Again, this was a miracle cure in the 50s and 60s, and then it got out of hand. The party got out of hand. This got out of the laboratory and into the counterculture. And here we are. We can learn from yesteryear. I think it's worth noting that MDMA also is, it's in phase 3 clinical trials with our federal government. They have a cure for post-traumatic stress disorder. That's right, a cure. 71% of the participants that had, and these are arguably the most troubled of the bunch, so to speak. They've been struggling with PTSD for an average of 17 years, complex PTSD, and there our current methodologies have been unable to help these people. They're veterans, they're victims of childhood sexual trauma, victims of rape, and these people are really, really struggling. And 71% of them no longer qualify for post-traumatic stress disorder after 1 to 3 therapeutic sessions with MDMA and 9 non-drug therapeutic sessions with a team of psychologists or psychiatrists. So that's astounding. And I had a little bit of a pause there between 1 to 3. Typically, it's 3 therapeutic doses of MDMA, but there are a few cases where people had 1 or even 2, and I think that they had extraordinary benefits where they were like, I don't need to have more than that, and I'm cured. I'm whole. And so again, I'm just inviting possibility. What is it that is helping these people that are stuck 17 years in the personal hell of the mind, stuck in their trauma? I know, as an adult survivor of childhood trauma, I know the pain of being stuck in my trauma. And for me, it was a lot of substance abuse. It was a lot of, missing the mark. It was a lot of posturing. It was a lot of ego. It was a lot of self-abuse on my body. And so you have these people that are finding a way out of the personal hell of the mind to wellness, where they're good, where again, they don't qualify for having a disorder at that point. What is it that is helping them do that? I think it's they're getting into the flow state. It's that massive boost that we just mentioned a moment ago, that Stephen Kotler and Jamie Whelan mapped in their book, Stealing Fire. This massive boost while we're in the flow state, where productivity, creativity, and learning are applied to their healing journey. And people can make sense of their experiences. They can reframe the traumas and the pain in their heart. They can find forgiveness. They can let go. And they have, again, the productivity, the creativity to envision a path ahead, a path, again, out of the personal hell of the mind. And productivity, creativity, and learning. So, and then they can learn. They have the pliability, the plasticity of their brain and their nervous system, where, again, the neuroplasticity it denotes plastic. Plastic is pliable. Like, it's not rigid. It's not stone. It's not set, which, for someone who might be struggling and not having access to these medicines might feel like their nervous system is stuck, and that they are broken, and this default setting that they're stuck in will be for an eternity. But the reality is, and why these medicines are feared, and why psychedelics are feared, and why the FDA turned down MDMA-assisted psychotherapy as the gold standard cure for post-traumatic stress disorder in 2024, big blow to the movement, is because of the neuroplasticity and the change that these medicines invite, and the potential for how people can have rapid change, where they can rewire these maladaptive patterns, these traumas that are lodged in the nervous system, and they can rewire these traumas and rewire this constriction and negative self-talk and rumination and worry and doubt and fear, and they can rewire that into confidence, into joy, into peace, into acceptance, into empathy and self-care and self-love, all these things that we all want more of. So again, the container, the cultural container of knowing that we can get into this flow state, and knowing that we have this psychedelic science, and that we can learn from the 50s and the 60s. And we also have, I mentioned in the last episode I did around the backstory of the power of the breath. We've got the science. We got Wim Hof, very much aligned with capital P possibility, and that we have ways to heal and to regulate our nervous system without psychedelics, without microdosing. The more I do this work, the more I believe that the breath is so powerful. I could host 3-month deep dives with just the breath work alone. And but the microdosing's nice and it's buzzy and it's attractive in our culture and people are curious and it can serve as a catalyst. And then we stack the practices, the breathing, we stack the meditation, we stack bravely journaling our thoughts and liberating the energy of trauma and being real with ourselves and authentic about what's heavy on our heart so we can process these old wounds and to free up that energetic bandwidth for new aligned blessings to come forth. So I think that we can steer this. This is why I'm so gosh darn hopeful. And I think that we're doing this work, we're understanding the flow science, that is going to invite capital P possibility. Again, all of these videos have been procured to prime prosperity pathways. That's something that I'm seeing in many of my clients where we're, again, priming this cognitive real estate for envisioning the path ahead. We're freeing up the past and the heaviness that we're carrying from yesteryear. That's going to create more nervous system regulation, more peace, more calm, more connection to our breath, less chaos in our mind, and we can intentionally envision the path and go big. If you're seeking to go big, if you're a high achiever looking to expand your impact, income, and inner peace, reach out. There's a call link in the description below. Together, we will prime prosperity pathways. It's 2026. Let's make this the biggest year yet. Imagine a year filled with clarity, peace, and momentum. Let's freaking go. So much love to all of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my hopeful heart. So much more to come about this angle. And again, I appreciate the support and the love and you listening. Much love and peace. Thank you.